the rupturing of membranes. There are 3 ways that the membranes can rupture, and there have been 3 acronyms that have been created to help us remember those. The first one is PROM, P-R-O-M, and that stands for the premature rupture of membranes. Prior to 37 weeks gestation, which is what is considered full term, if the membranes have been ruptured prior to that, that is considered a premature rupture, so anytime before 37 weeks. Also, we have SROM, or spontaneous rupture of membranes, and that is the one that we want to see. We want to see that at 37 weeks gestation or after, and that is what's most commonly referred to as your water breaking. So there has been nothing that has happened prior to 37 weeks, and there's been no assistance in order to get those membranes ruptured. And speaking of assistance, that leads me to the last one, which is AROM, or the artificial rupturing of membranes. That is a procedure that is done either by an obstetrician or a midwife, and the actual membranes are ruptured for the mother. So either the OB or the midwife would use a tool such as an amni hook to go in and pierce the membranes, or sometimes it can just be done with a hand that is gloved and sanitized. So there are some instances where that is suggested, maybe if a labor has been going on for quite some time, but mother is quite exhausted and baby is engaged and everything, but the water just hasn't broken. Sometimes that artificial rupturing of the membranes can just help mom turn the corner, and that labor can go from kind of slowing down or stalling, or what is often called failure to progress, and that can help that mom turn the corner in an instant, to the point where she's ready to push and that baby's out just within minutes. I think I mentioned earlier that the spontaneous rupturing of membranes is what we like to see. That's what we hope for. And for some moms, the water will break first, and that will be her first sign that today is the day baby is coming. For the majority of women, other signs of labor will come first, such as contractions, pretty regular or steady contractions, and then water will break in the midst of the laboring process. So there are things to keep in mind. There are decisions to be made and options that you have for each of those rupturing of the membranes. If you are a woman who experiences a premature rupture of membranes, the advice given to you or the options that you have are really going to vary depending on how far along you are in that pregnancy. A woman whose membranes rupture at 26 weeks is going to have a very different conversation with her provider than someone who's at 36 weeks. But of course there are risks, associated with that, of infection or leading into premature labor or, a whole host of things. So if you wonder if that has happened to you, please be safe and not rather than sorry, and call your provider and let them know, hey, this is what's going on, describe it, and see if he or she wants you to come in, and just have a closer look there in the office or at your birthing center, wherever you're going to be. For the spontaneous rupture of membranes, the clock has started. Most people want to see baby healthy and delivered within 24 hours of when that water has broken, and so at the time that happens, nothing new can be introduced to the vagina. So of course no sexual intercourse, not that you'd be using tampons, but nothing going up in there, because there's less of a barrier between baby and the outside world now that those membranes are not there. And then the artificial rupturing of membranes, there is an increased risk of infection just from the tool or the glove that is inserted into the mother. And of course those are sterilized, but nothing is foolproof. There are concerns that if baby were to turn, say the artificial rupturing of membranes happens, on a Monday, and nothing really starts happening labor-wise, and 2 days later mom feels a major shift, well, baby could have completely switched his or her position, and that can make it more difficult to get baby flipped back into the head down position that we like to see for birth, because there's not as much room and fluid and just way for them to easily move down into the position of the birth canal. And for some women, the artificial rupturing of the membranes, the procedure itself can just be discomfort, a sense of discomfort, but also can make some of those labor contractions more painful, because while it's not a lot, there is still a little bit of a barrier between baby's head and the pelvis with each contraction when the bag of water is still intact. So if that's not there, there's just a little bit less of a cushion to be aware of. So that's a general overview of the rupturing of membranes and what they all mean, and what kind of things that you need to consider if any of those things happen to you or when they happen to you.